if you've ever purchased or rented a student, beginner, intermediate level trumpet, chances are pretty good that it came with a 7C mouthpiece. That's pretty much considered by most brands the gold standard of beginner level trumpet mouthpieces, and a lot of people stick with 7Cs throughout their life. Now, different brands and different sizings may apply here, depending on what kind of 7C you're using. But if you collect mouthpieces at all, like I sort of somewhat do, chances are you've accrued several 7Cs. I happen to have 7 of them that I'm going to be demonstrating back to back on the same excerpt, and afterwards we'll go into a discussion of the general characteristics of a 7C, ones that stand out in my collection, etc. So, without any further waffling, let's get going. Introducing today's contestants. Blessing again, but a cornet mouthpiece with an adapter to fit a trumpet. NEMC, Coast, Holton, Giardinelli, and just to throw a wrench in the mix, a generic Chinese one with no other markings than 7C that has a really tarnished rim and cup. Probably not the safest thing in the world to play on, but let's hope we don't die. Okay, today's excerpts are brought to you by the 27 Melodious and Rhythmical Exercises for Trumpet by J.L. Small. We are going to be playing the Polonaise from number 10 and the Allegretto from number 11. heard 7 different variants of the 7C played back to back on 2 different excerpts. Now we've reached the discussion segment of the video. So, what can I, as not necessarily an authority on 7C mouthpieces, say about them? Let's start with general specifications. We're going to be talking about ballpark values here, nothing really exact, so bear that in mind. The inner diameter of a 7C from one end of the rim to the opposing end should be about 16 to 16.2 millimeters. Again, from the inside here to the other inside. It's the internal diameter. This can really vary between brands and even within them, so that value should be taken with a little grain of salt occasionally. And then the cup depth should be right in the middle of the road. A lot of 7Cs end up on the deeper end. I don't know why they do that. Box 7Cs do it. I don't happen to own one, but just from experience, they are deeper than your average C cup. Blessing sort of copies the same design, so this one is maybe a little bit on the deeper end, not significantly. So those are general specs. The throat will generally be a 26 or 27. I don't know about backboards, to be totally honest. So just a few quick words on the sound of each one of these. The 2 blessings are pretty much Bach copies, and they are basically made to emulate what a 7C should sound like according to Vincent Bach. I mean, they're very middle of the road, not too bright, not too dark. Response is pretty good for the most part, and there's some flexibility in tone, not the most, but whatever. The NEMC is reasonably flexible in tone. It's a little bit on the brighter side, not by much. The Coast is probably the brightest of them all. I think it rides a little bit on the shallower side and a little bit tighter in terms of cup diameter. This was made in Western Germany, so this is not an American model like I'd say probably 5 of them are. 5 of the 7. Obviously the Chinese one is not from America. But this one rides a little bit brighter. It's a little bit shallower, a little bit smaller. The Holton is both wider and deeper from the looks of things. I mean, it's practically as deep as my 1.5 A cup, and it's close to a 3C, I'd say, in width. I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely ends up on the darker side of the spectrum. The response is a little bit less instantaneous for this reason, so it's really for a different style of music. It doesn't blend super well with the other 7Cs, which all sound reasonably similar. It sounds a little bit smokier, and it's better for, solos in like jazz combos and stuff. The Giardinelli, again, rides on the brighter side like the Coast. Slightly more percussive attacks, again, like the Coast. It's decently shallow. Supposedly Giardinelli's 7Cs are pretty close in width to a Bach 3C, but the 3C can vary so much. It can be anywhere from 16.3 to like 16.5 or 6 millimeters. I have a wildcard Bach 3C that's like 16.8 millimeters if I had to really put my best guess on it. It's almost as big as a 1.5. It shouldn't be like that, but yeah, take the measurements of a 3C with a grain of salt. I thought they were all 16.5 at one point when I was very naive about how mouthpieces are made. Yeah, no. So the Chinese 7C is interesting. It doesn't necessarily make you sound much worse as long as you're using a decent trumpet. A Chinese mouthpiece will do fine, and vice versa. If you're using a Chinese instrument, at least use a decent mouthpiece on it, and that'll make things a little bit better. But it really doesn't feel great. The response is not there when I need it. Some of the slots feel weird. The intonation gets a little wonky. So, yeah, wouldn't recommend, especially not in that state. I think that's about as much talking as my throat can handle for today. I don't know what's going on with me, but that was 7 7Cs. Hope you enjoyed.